Hi everyone, this is the computational anti-social scientist presenting our computational social science project, the Parlia-metrics, wherein we analyze and extract Lok Sabha debates data from 2022. The motivation for this project is that while similar data is in public has been in public domain for a long time, such as the Supreme Court and High Court's data, unlike those other data, this Lok Sabha debates have not been classified, quantified, or even discussed at any scholarly level before, and we want to do that at an exploratory level and conduct some interesting novel experiments on Lok Sabha debates data. Now, this project was carried out in two parts. The first part was to get the data from the e-Parliament website, which is the Parliament's website, where you can browse all the data published at the scale of day or at the scale of Lok Sabha. And we got all the data from here. We put it into text files, performed some exploratory data analysis, and based on that, we targeted certain metrics that we wanted to judge for the entire year. So we started out with around 1 month's worth of data, and we scaled it up to one entire year, which is the second part of our data, where we formalize all of our results using plots, heat maps, etc., and present it to a wider audience, where we can also draw social inferences from the visualizations that we just created. Now, the process for this was relatively simple. We scrape all the relevant PDFs from the website, convert the PDFs to text files for easier and lighter processing, and clean up the text. After this was done, we use regular expressions from the text to filter out the speakers and their speeches, storing everything spoken by everyone in the Lok Sabha. This also required partial matching to avoid duplicates because there were spelling errors and multiple notations, differing notations used in the data. Then, after this, we wanted to analyze the speaker counts and verbosity to speak who speaks the most in terms of amount and number of times spoken, the speaker sentiments, which is how negative or positive sentiments of all the speakers are, and the distribution of topics temporally as well as speaker wise. So, seeing what topics were discussed in the Lok Sabha at a time scale and along with on a per speaker basis. So, we did similar analysis for the manifestos of BJP and Congress to also analyze whether these manifesto topics held up to the speeches given in the Lok Sabha by these MPs of these parties. Now, after we've done this for 1 month's data to see what can be done and what cannot be done, what makes sense and what may not make sense, we extrapolate all of our study, including our data and our analysis, to 1 year's worth of debates. Then we carefully look at the results of this data and draw subjective inferences from the results and also try and correlate them to real world incidents that may explain them. Now, one thing noteworthy here is that we looked at sentiment data for around a month and concluded that we didn't wish to do this sentiment analysis for the entire year because we didn't find any insightful gains or any real world analysis that led to or correlated to the sentiment data. Now, what was of most interest to us was to see who spoke the most, apart from, of course, the speaker who manages the entire house. And the first part, we have Adhir Ranjan Chaudhary from Congress, followed by a BJP leader, a DMK leader, BJP, TMC, Congress, and BSP. What is interesting is that BJP holds a majority in the house, but also a lot of the top speakers do not belong to the BJP, which shows that the opposition seems to question and speak a lot, even though they are at the less dominant position in the Lok Sabha. Again, this is the speaker sentiments results that we decided were not as unrandom as we would like them to be, because you can see that this is the most extreme result. We find BJP leaders with the most extreme positives, and we also find Congress leaders with the most extreme positives, but we also find Congress and BJP leaders with the most extreme negatives. Since this does not correlate too much, we will not spend more time on this. Then we look at the topics that were discussed throughout the Lok Sabha, and we see some overarching themes like budget, dollar, unemployment, which were the issues that the opposition usually targeted the BJP on. And we also see issues like the farmer issue, which we see was rampant around the 2022 time, for which this data was taken. We also wanted to see how the topics varied by session, and we'll notice that the budget session, which was immediately after the farmers' protest ended, farmers, defense, technology, and industry were quite rampant in terms of being discussed, and so were things like budget and education. Around the monsoon session, we see that the farmers are still important, but less so compared to roads, railways, traffic, industry, which is the regular affair for the Lok Sabha. And by the winter session, we see similar things again, where we see some panic regarding the economy. So bankruptcy turned out to be one of the most prominent topics. Once again, this was all done through topic modeling. Then there's discussion on colleges, tourism, sports, and banks, and other things which relate to the events that happened around that time. Okay, we also looked at the manifestos of these parties to see what they seem to be promising, and we found some very expected results. Like the topics in the BJP manifesto seem to be around India, nationalism, services, order, and state, which is what you would expect from a nationalist party, which has been in power for 5 years. Now, Congress is coming from a position of relative weakness where they're trying to assert that they could do better. So you see promises, education, women, and rights having more of an effect to them. You also see something like rights and women and services, where you can see that Congress tries to be a politically correct party as opposed to the BJP. Then we see who spoke about what. We see two different kinds of ministers. One is somebody like Nirmala Sitharaman, who will talk a fair bit about her ministry, but we'll also see some topics that are regarding the country matters. But for somebody like Nitin Gadkari, all the topics we see who's the roadways minister, we see all the topics which are only related to his own ministry. Then in terms of the opposition, we see people like Shashi Tharoor, who bring up local issues as well as national issues, and people like Mahua Moitra, who are slightly closer to their own local issues. So she'll talk about Naxalites, she'll also attack the Modi government on their Achadan promise, whereas people like Shashi Tharoor will talk a lot more about government, governance, his own state, which is Kerala, and then urbanization such as airport, railways, and education. Okay, the conclusion is just a summary of what we wanted to do and what we have done. What we have done is we have explored the Indian Lok Sabha debates as a data set of potential scholarly interest. We have conducted some EDA to understand the data, and we have made what we think are some insightful inferences about the contents of these debates. We have presented this in an accessible manner through a poster session to dozens of people. We have recorded our progress of this project in this video, and we have also documented this as a blog post. Thank you.